Hey, this is Al with Inspirtech. At Inspirtech, we typically focus on creating training videos for SOLIDWORKS design software. But I'd like to take a moment today to demonstrate some tricks for copying and referencing cells within Excel. For the purposes of demonstration, we're going to create a multiplication table. The first thing I'd like to do is populate the numbers for the vertical column on our multiplication table. To do this, we're going to use a simple formula in cell A3 that equals the cell above it, that's A2 plus 1. Essentially, a formula that's going to allow us to count. If I select this cell and select the box in the bottom right-hand corner of the cell, I can drag down and Excel will reproduce that formula using relative values. That is, in cell 3, we are referencing the cell above it, cell A2. So when we copied the formula to cell A4, then we're going to reference cell A3, and so on. Now there's another way we can count using Excel. Let's go to cell C1 and enter 2. If we were now to select the box in the right-hand corner of this cell and drag to the right, we would reproduce the value 2. But if we were to select cell 1 and cell 2, Excel will then realize that it's a sequence. So now when we copy that cell, Excel is going to reproduce that sequence. Again, counting. So 2 methods at counted, but there is a difference between each. If I change the value in cell A2 to 5, then my formula is going to start counting at 5 because it's simply referencing the cell above it and adding 1 to it. On the other hand, if I change the value in cell B1 to 5, none of the cells are going to update because in the top row, Excel simply found the sequence and reproduced it by placing the correct value in the cell without using a formula. So this is something to keep in mind when you think you may want to change the starting number to a series of values. Now let's change cell B1 back to 1 and cell A2 back to 1. We're now ready to start creating a formula. We're going to create a formula in cell B2 that is equal to cell A2 times cell B1. Of course, this is multiplied 1 times 1 to get 1. When we drag that formula to the right, 3 cells, we can see what's happening. Unfortunately, Excel is again going to incrementally move that formula. So now cell C2 is cell B1 times cell C1 because that formula was referencing the cell that's 1 to the left times the cell that's 1 above. Of course, this is not what we want for a multiplication table. The other problem is when we copied that, our formatting changed. I had these nice columns and rows set up to visually see where the rows and columns meet. But when we copy by dragging, it automatically copies the formatting as well as the formulas. So we're going to take a look at how we change that. Let's press Ctrl Z to undo that previous change and start by correcting the problem. I'll double click the cell, and what we're going to do is add a $ in front of the A. This means column A is always going to be column A. We're not going to use an incremental relationship that keeps moving the column with the formula. In the case of the numbers along the top, it's not the column we want to lock because the column is going to be moving to the right. Instead, we want to lock the row, which is the 1. So we'll add a $ in front of the 1. Now, I can click out of the formula. Of course, in this cell, it's still doing the same thing. But if we copy the cell to the right, we can see we're always referencing back to that same cell A2. If I copy down, we're always referencing back to the top row because I locked the column on the left and the row on the top using the $. So we know the formula is working correctly. Now we just have to get the formatting correct. Let's press Control Z and Control Z to undo that copying, and now right-click and select Copy. We'll then drag a box that highlights our entire table and right-click. We're going to select Paste Special, and we just want to paste the formulas. This means our formats, or comments and validation, if they were present, will not be copied. Let's select OK. And we now have a complete multiplication table. Unfortunately, some of the numbers in the bottom don't fit within the column. To make the width appropriate, double-click the line that defines the edge of the column, and Excel will automatically make the column the appropriate width. If we select multiple columns by holding down the left mouse button and dragging across the columns, we can then double-click any one of the lines, and Excel will update the width of all of the columns. From this video, I hope you've learned a few useful Excel tips. Thank you, and enjoy.